here for a second. All right, good deal. So when you talk about a little bit more activity, what does that look like when you decide that your business requires more activity and more, let's just call it leads, more opportunities or at-bats? What does that look like to you, and how do you go out about getting it? I mean, what is it that you do that actually goes out there and creates those opportunities?
For me, I try to get on the phone. I try to get face-to-face with them. So I try to schedule coffees or lunches or breakfasts or dinners or whatever. I just try to get face-to-face with agents, do office appointments. The last few weeks I've been doing quite a few office presentations.
Okay.
So I try to have, while I like doing office presentations, they're not my favorite. I prefer to do one-on-ones where it's just two people getting to know one another and just talking like people.
Right.
For me, it's mostly phone activity. When I'm on the phone, my business does well. When I stop making the outbound calls, I think I struggle.
Okay. Well, that I think applies to every one of us. Without question, I think that applies to anybody in sales. So when it comes to the phone call itself, the question that I posed last week is centered around what is it that you say to people when you talk to them on the phone? Now, and let's be clear. We identified that we have a very short window of time to be able to create a first impression. And so the greatest opportunity, what's that?
I was just going to say that most of my calls, because I don't have a database, I'm in a new marketplace, my calls are primarily to referral partners or potential referral partners.
Yep. So your greatest struggle is, like I've communicated to everybody before, what you say is what makes you different than everybody else. It isn't what you do, because we all essentially do the same. It isn't how you do it, because we all essentially do the how the same. It's why we do it that makes us different, and it's why we do it that makes us unique, and how we communicate the why we do it is what creates inspiration. And let's be specific about why inspiration means so much to me in the way that I communicate my value to people. I honestly believe, through my research and through my experiences, is that people want to engage with those individuals that inspire them, that make them believe that more is possible. Just look at guys like Scott Hudspeth. Look at guys like Carl White. Look at Richard Smith. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. People that we look up to that in a lot of ways are very similar to you and I. We both get up the same way. We both put our pants on the same way in the morning. There's just slight differences, not in how we do things or what we do, but the why we do them. And the communication of the why, I think, is one of those vital pieces in any sales conversation, because when you look at the human brain and how it's wired, action, when we create movement, how we create movement, isn't done by facts and figures. Nobody makes a decision to do anything around facts and figures. Those facts and figures create an emotion, but we also have the ability of creating an emotion through articulation of our values and our words to people to help make them feel inspired. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's 100% true.
Okay, so I want to go into the why conversation, because I think one of the greatest struggles that we as loan officers or consultants have is that we aren't very clear on why we do things when we're sitting in front of our clients. One of the greatest questions that we can ask ourselves before a client sits down with us is, why should this client want to use me? Now, it's a tough process, and what you typed was a great start, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this because I want you to read what I put up on the screen. Does it say, can you read what my screen says?
My why, the drive behind my passion.
Okay, so when you read your why, which is, I take the time to listen to your needs and wants when purchasing and refinancing your home, and specifically craft a solution to accommodate those needs and wants. Is that a how or a what or a why?
I would say that's probably a how.
Okay, I would agree. Do you think that that statement that you created is very inspirational?
No.
Okay. I'm not saying this is easy. It took me many, many, many tries to figure it out, and it really didn't come very easily. It came with a lot of soul searching. It was difficult. The why is really the passion. The why is the inspiration. When a consumer or a realtor sits down with you, they're looking to find a reason to want to work with you. They're not trying to find a reason not to work with you, but like we spoke about last week, every loan officer that a realtor has ever talked to fits within a very specific frame. And so every time you talk to a realtor about a loan officer, they all assume that we're the same. So we have a very short and very limited period of time that we can create a new perception about how and what we do by communicating our why. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
So let me ask you a couple personal questions, and this is being recorded to share with other people on the call. So if you don't feel comfortable with it, just let me know and I'll stop recording it. But I would like to ask you some deeper questions, kind of peel away the layers to get you closer to that why, because I think that once you get to that place of the passion of why you do it, you'll communicate that passion to your agents and your clients in a way that will intrigue them and it will inspire them, because believe it or not, many of our passions of why we do things are very similar to what other people have. The difference is that the ability that you have to articulate that to people is unknown and unheard by many agents and clients. Most clients and agents have never listened to an LO talk about their why. And let's be very, very frank about this. We have to be able to communicate how we're different, and the first step in doing that is to communicate our why. It's kind of the difference between being a consultant versus a salesperson, being a superstar versus a super servant. A superstar is more concerned with the ego, and a super servant is more concerned with supporting and helping others. But in order to help people see that, to really, really listen to what you're going to say, you have to have a captive audience. And in order for them to listen and not just kind of glaze over, you've got to capture them in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying this is the only way, but I believe that this is the most unique and effective way to communicate, because then it becomes another layer of education and training that you can work with your agents on as they go out to communicate to their listings and to their buyers. This is a tool that you can use to teach them how to do it if you learn how to do it first. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Does it make sense what I'm leading you into?
It does, absolutely. Yes, thank you, actually.
You're welcome. No, you're welcome. So let's start with a very basic question. Why do you do mortgages?
Because it provides the income I need to support my family.
But there are many jobs out there that you could earn an income to support your family with. I'm sure you didn't. Did you seek out mortgage? What's that?
I'm pretty good at this one, though.
Okay, so you're pretty good at writing loans.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay, are you good at consulting with people?
Yes.
Meaning, are you good at convincing them that you're the right person?
I think so.
I don't like the word I think. I think that's a guess. You either do or you don't.
Yeah, I rarely lose a loan once a client sits face to face with me. So I would say yes, I'm good at communicating that.
Okay, so you believe that you are the best option for people when they're sitting in front of you.
Not always. I mean, I'd be disingenuous if I think that I'm always the best option.
Well, let's just say it this way. You're always the best person for them to talk to about making a decision for a loan. That means that you're going to be the best option, meaning you're not going to mislead them. You're not going to misrepresent anything. You're going to tell them if you're the best option or not. You're going to communicate in a way that provides them the choices that are necessary to help them reach their goals, dreams, and desires. By that token, you are their best choice to talk to about mortgages. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct, yes.
Are you 100% convicted with that statement?
Yes.
that when you sit in front of somebody, there's no better person to give them advice and direction than you.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Why do you think that you're the best person?
Well, I think I'm the best because I take the time to listen to what they need, like what they want. What are they trying to accomplish? Instead of what I want to accomplish, it's about what they want to do, and then my job is to take what they want, marry it with what we have available to provide them, if we have some. And if not, then I'll find somebody who does.
Okay, good, good. One critique on that is I would take out the word I think anytime you communicate your value to people.
All right.
The reason is because an I think statement is a sign. It's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being unclear. It's a sign of not being 100% convicted about what you're telling them. And when you're going to inspire people, let's look at all those people who are great orators. I mean, go back to MLK. When he did his speech, I don't think he said. I know he didn't communicate. I think he started out with Yep. He goes, I have a dream. It wasn't, I think I have a dream.
Right.
One of the greatest tools that you can change about your dialogue to people is getting rid of I'll try and I'll think statements. It's not that you aren't going to do your best. It's not that you're going to be 100% accurate all the time. It's the conveyance of how comfortable and how assured you are of your abilities that you literally are trying to inspire them to believe in what you're doing. Because you just got done telling me you know and you believe that if a client works with you or meets with you, you are their best option to start the process with to help get the right information and to be pointed in the right direction.
That is correct.
Okay? Right? So there's no debate, there's no question whether or not you are capable, talented, proficient, and have the right team to support people. You know that emphatically. There's never going to be an issue with that because in your heart of hearts you believe that you are the number one person they should be talking to when it comes to when it comes to considering a mortgage.
Correct.
Okay? So now that we have that in place, we know what your value is, because your value is, I'm not doing this because I want to get your mortgage. I'm doing this because I believe that my experience in this industry has taught me enough information and I've had enough experiences that I am the best person to communicate to you what your best options are and helping you get to your dreams, goals, and desires. Now, I may not be the right person to help you with it, but I am the right and best person to help pave the way and create a plan for you to get there.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
How does that fit compared to how you did it the last time you had this conversation with somebody?
Well, I think that's certainly way more inspiring than what I typically do.
Right? Okay. So now you have a little bit more articulation that you can communicate to your borrowers, and you can create that to fit your conversations with your realtors, but we still haven't gotten to the why part of it. We haven't still gotten to the passion part of it. Okay? We have a little bit about what you do. We're not talking about the how yet. We're just talking a little bit about the what as we get closer to the why. So the why part of it. What excites you about being that person? What excites you and gets you fired up every time you sit in front of a borrower or an agent? What is it that gets you dancing or your finger snapping or your foot tapping?
When I help someone accomplish their goal, like when I have a part in their goal of home ownership or helping a realtor achieve their financial goals, like to be a part of that team and helping someone accomplish something.
That's a result.
That's a result. At the closing table, like I like to go to closings because to me, it's the culmination and everyone's like, that's it. I've helped the realtor accomplish what they wanted. I've helped the seller. I've helped the buyer. I've helped everybody accomplish what they want, and I get to be a party to doing that.
What is it about that gets you excited? Because that's a result. Everything that you just got done telling me is a result of what you do. That doesn't tell me why you do it. I know it's kind of hard to kind of draw that line, but what you just described to me was more about helping others, but it's not an I statement. I want you to be a little bit, I want you to dig a little bit deeper and really ask yourself, as you're sitting there and you're a part of all of this, that's not the why you do it. That's a result. That's like getting paid. You're doing this because of who you are, because you're that good of a person, but it doesn't tell me why you're doing it. I don't know why you want to be a part of those moments. I don't know why you want to help out a realtor. I don't know why you want to go to a closing. Get rid of the money. Go ahead.
I'm struggling to answer that, so I'll just do my best. I absolutely love being with a client and seeing the look on their face when they get the keys to their first home. Like, I love that. I do that for free.
Why? Why is that important to you?
Because I've spent the time to figure out, like, to get to know who they are, and it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, for me, it's that I get to help them accomplish something. There's a great fulfillment for me, and knowing that I once was that person on the other side of the desk trying to buy my first house. Mm-hmm. And I remembered what that felt like and that struggle, and that I could be there to help them through that I could be an advocate for them in the process. I love being that person. I love helping take that square peg and get it in the round hole and figure out how do I get this thing from where it is to where it wants to be. I love building that out. Like, I love all of that.
Why do you love it so much?
Because it brings me joy. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I do it because I like that part of it. You're right. I could sell insurance or investments or anything else, but none of that stuff brings me the fulfillment of when I sit at a table and I watch the deputy sheriff with tears in his eyes, sign the paper, getting his first house. That's why.
Okay, hang in here with me a little bit because it's going to start getting a little bit more difficult for you. Your why, your passion behind what you do shouldn't matter in the career path that you're in. Take out the mortgage, take out the borrower, take out the realtor, take out the square peg in the round hole. Your passion for what you do and why you do it isn't about real estate. There is a different why that I'm seeking from you, which is deeper, that has nothing to do with mortgages and buyers and sellers and round pegs and square holes. And I'm pushing you on this because you're close to it. I'm just looking for you to hit on that nerve because I remember what it was like for me. And let me give you what my why is.
Okay.
One of the greatest feelings in the world for me is that moment that I pick up the telephone and somebody has told someone else how awesome I am, how honest I am, how capable I am. Having that feeling of somebody else standing on a pedestal and putting me in a position to fulfill their expectations and feeling so comfortable in entrusting me with their reputation is a feeling like no other. It is a high, it is a rush, it is an unbelievable feeling that pushes me every single month to leverage my relationships, to leverage my clients, to get them to understand that the why I do it is because I want them to know how much they mean to me. They mean so much to me because I crave that feeling of picking up the phone and having somebody on the other end tell me that they need me. It validates me. There's not another industry other than sales that I would ever get that feeling for. So when I sit down with a realtor and I sit down with a buyer, I don't say it in that way, but I know in my head how clear I am about why my business is built on my relationships. I am clear on my actions and how I'm able to orchestrate those situations. My why, which is very personal to me, provides me the chance that when I'm done with work, I go home and I'm actually feeling better about who I am after I leave the office than when I came into the office. So that when I'm home with my family, I'm a better man, a better father, a better husband than I would have if I didn't go into the office. That's my passion behind what it is that I do and why it is that I do it.
That resonates very much with me, Doug. Like, it really does. Like,
I know. I hear you. You're no different than me. It's
the people that have confidence in me enough to say, I'm willing to risk it for you. Like, I'm willing to risk this thing. And I don't know you, but I trust you that I can put this thing that's incredibly important to me in your lap. Know you're going to get it where it needs to go.
Right. Get rid of the risk. Get rid of the idea that people are risking doing anything with you.
Well,
you're basically
for them to pick me. Like, the risk for them, without knowing me, like, from their perspective, it's a risk because there's lots of options. Why this guy, Travis? Well,
right.
Because it
so
means that.
Right. So your job, as we talked a little bit earlier, is to get them to recognize that you are the best option to talk to. So it isn't a basis of risk, like who's the least amount of risk that we want to choose. It's the who do we feel and believe is the best option for us. Not risk, who's the best option. Because you know that if they commit to working with you, they're not risking anything. Because you're going to educate them and consult with them and lead them through the process like Patton did at Battle of the Bulge. Right?
Right. You're right.
So when you're talking about talking to realtors and to clients, that short window of time that you have to make a first impression, it's not about being cool. It's not about being funny. It's not about anything until you've clearly communicated what your why is to them. And my why when I talk to agents and clients isn't like I'm talking to you about it. Mine is the triangle of trust. Mine is when I sit down with a realtor, it's a pleasure to meet you. Listen, I really only want to take 15 minutes of your time, and the goal of this meeting is really to tell you that I've looked into your business. I know a little bit about you, and I'm wondering if you and I might be a better partner than we would be, not working together. And so let me tell you a little bit about me, because I think it's fair that you understand who I am before I start to ask you a little bit more about who you are. My business is built on a triangle of trust mindset. I developed strong relationships with people to the point where they refer me, and that means that through that process, I'm able to orchestrate current client referrals. I'm able to orchestrate past client referrals, and I'm also capable of generating referrals from the listing agent transactions. My job is to help communicate and develop a process with my clients that makes me referable. And why that benefits you, Mr. Realtor, is because as I generate my referrals from my clients, I try my best to make sure that I can steer them back into what I call an orchard, which is we have a client, we work together, that's an apple, that has a seed in it. I take those seeds, instead of throwing them away, I plant them in my orchard. My goal is to help build an orchard with you and a trees that produce many, many, many fruit. And so my job every time I get a referral is to make sure I go back to that referral source or to that person that we work with and make sure that I'm able to keep that circle of life or triangle of trust keep working. Do you have any other loan officers in your career or in your path that you work with that has a strategy that's able to continually push referrals back based on how well they work together as a team? Now, Here's the cool part about it, Travis. Does that not have an underlying tone of why I do my business?
Right. It absolutely does.
Does it not communicate my passion for what it is that I love?
No, it definitely does.
And it tailors it to their needs to make it all about them, doesn't it?
Right.
Your conversation up until that point has now framed you the way that you want that realtor to see you. Do you think you're a different LO to them than you were than the last LO that sat down in front of them?
Absolutely.
Do you think that what you tell them that you do and how you do it will mean a lot more to them as you further the conversation?
I hope so. If not, then they're not a good fit.
Ah, bingo. That's it. While at the same time, you're able to create this inspiration that you may be able to help them with their business. You may be able to help them grow their business by teaching them things that they've never really been trained to do, such as trying to figure out their why. It's not a hard process to go through, and most people end up at the same place. The difference is that many people have never had to go through the process. Nobody's ever really coached them through it. And even after this conversation has had, I mean, we've been on the phone call now, what, for 30 minutes? Do you feel that you are more capable of communicating your value than you were before you got on this call?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Don't you think that as you communicate that over and over again and you get more comfortable with it, that you can start teaching agents how to communicate their value to their listings and to their buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. Once I get that comfort level, then it just becomes part of who I am.
And then it becomes something. And then it becomes something that you can teach your realtors how to communicate so that they can create a better relationship with their clients and yield better opportunities for new business in the future.
Correct.
Now you've given yourself everything you need to give them a reason to talk to them on a weekly or monthly basis. Because you've positioned yourself as being an inspirational leader who isn't after a transaction, who's after the opportunity to get people to want to listen to you. Because really at the end of the day, whether they do a loan with you or not, you're more excited just to have somebody want to listen to you and to hear what you have to say, and listen to what you have to say, because in your heart, if they listen to what you have to say, they'll work with you just because of how good of a person you are and how centered you are on your value. And it provides them a chance to feel for the first time that they actually have an advocate in their corner, because I guarantee you the realtor hasn't said it. I guarantee that they've never been in a transaction with somebody, even from buying a car, looking at homes, the list goes on, buying a appliance. There's never been somebody who can sit down and articulate their value, and here's what you typically get from buyers. Typically. Wow, that feels so good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Nobody could ever articulate it, but like the conversation we had last time, when you're able to communicate without them having to ask the question, it creates greater value, it creates greater trust. And when you're able to communicate it in a way that people can feel it, there's an instantaneous layer of trust that's established, because you've essentially taken what they're trying to feel and communicate and aren't really clear on it, and you've just put it in a word and in a sentence and in a paragraph and in a presentation that makes them believe who you are and why you do things. And because all of us believe in very similar things, you become more capable to them, and they'll never even understand why, because they're not into the science of it. They just know that they feel like you're the right person. They feel like you're trustworthy, and you haven't had to go into, well, I work 24 hours a day, I'm always available, I'll take care of you, I care. You don't have to go into any of that. Do you see how powerful this conversation is? And you get away from what most people regurgitate, and you position yourself in a significantly different light.
Yeah, I absolutely see the power of it. I'm looking forward to using it, actually. I can't wait to get out and use it right now. I'm going to have to practice it.
And that's the key. It has to be conversational. That's the key to this whole thing, is that it has to be part of you. It isn't that you have to say it perfectly in your head. It's just that you have to communicate it with such enthusiasm and such clarity and confidence that no matter what you say, they believe it. Because you know you are that person. You know you are that capable. But when you use the words like risk or I think or I'll try, those are undermining your confidence. So when you sit across the table from people, it isn't that what you say is going to matter as much as in how you say it. But you have to be very clear about those undermining words. Because if you don't have confidence in who you are, how are they going to have confidence in who you are?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
So your greatest struggle is to take this message, communicate it to yourself, role play it. But when you get in front of people, don't look for perfection, look for the message. And let's be clear about this. The message is your confidence and the tone in which you say it. The whole exercise of getting you to the why was, you know your value. You just have never been told how to express it in a way that actually makes you more valuable. You already said, I'm the best option for people to talk to about mortgages. I may not be the best option to use for a mortgage, but I'm the best option for them to talk to when it comes to a mortgage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're not saying that with such gusto and such confidence that people don't trip over themselves to want to hear what you have to say, you're not communicating it good enough. And then once you get their attention, the why part of it allows you to communicate what really matters, which is, I'm going to go into this process with one clear goal, and that is to make you a raving fan of my business. It doesn't matter to me if I'm going to do the mortgage or not. It matters to me that you know that you're going to get the right information, the right game plan, the right path, and have an advocate in your corner. I mean, let's be honest, Travis. Isn't it nice to know that you've got a friend in the business now? And my job is to make sure that I treat you as a friend and treat you as somebody that I would hope that I would be treated as well. And so as we go through this process, understand that my goal is to create a raving fan out of you, which means I need you to go out to the world and advertise and advocate my business. That's how I'm able to communicate this kind of value to you. This is how I'm able to eliminate all the things that could go wrong. It's because I'm not worried about trying to find the next transaction. I'm worried about just making you the raving fan and the advocate of my business. And I know that if I do that, I know you'll gladly advocate my business to the people that you know and you like and you trust. And that's how my business has grown.
You should see me sitting here with a big grin on my face. That's awesome.
How do you think that message comes across if you and I were to go up against the same client for a mortgage, and it was the same, we work for the same company, Travis. Let's just say our rates are identical. Who do you think, or even if your rates were a little bit cheaper, who do you think stands a better chance of being able to capture that client's opportunity?
Well, I think me, Doug, because I'm just a touch more handsome.
That I would agree with, buddy. I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. If you were going to purely base it on looks and charm, man, I'd be beaten out 9 out of 10 times.
I hope you know I'm kidding. I hope.
Oh, God. But see, that's the funny part. Carl White will tell you that all the time. Carl White, it's not about what you look like. It's not about that. But I'm totally with you, and I'm playing around because I think it's funny when we look at those things and go, what people are really looking for? They're really looking for the person that makes them feel, right? That's what they're looking for. People are trying to buy a house. They want to feel inspired with the people they work with. They're never going to tell you that because they don't know. Nobody ever buys and does things based on facts and figures. They buy and use the services based on a feeling, based on an emotion. Because if you do it based on facts and figures, there's always going to be another layer that's out there that's going to give you a cheaper interest rate, cheaper costs, and you're never, ever, ever going to find that. You're never going to find that magic fountain that gives the best rate and the best product every single time. So at some point, you just got to look at it and go, I want to go and buy and use the services from people that I feel are aligned with me. And your statement with your agents and your clients, they're going to be inspired to work with you because you make them feel and say the things that they feel that they've never heard before. And it's going to create such great trust and bonding between you two that you're never going to be looked at as a commodity again.
And it's funny because I do struggle at those like face-to-face appointments of that transition, like feeling like they're connected, and I think changing the language that I use will have a huge impact on that.
The language is part of it, Travis, but the energy level has to be there too. You literally have to sit down and convince yourself that you are the best option for them. Not to do the loan, I'm trying to be specific there. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, you have to, without any doubt, walk in there and be like, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, pleasure to meet you. Hey, listen, I know that you guys have 100 different choices out there. You could use me, you could use a bank, you can use the internet. You guys have 100 different options for mortgages. I get that. I'm not sitting here to tell you that you have to use me. I think this meeting today is really going to be centered around trying to figure out if I'm the right fit for you. But just so you guys are clear and we have this agreement moving into our conversation, that I'm also interviewing you to decide if you're the right person for my business. And the reason is because my business is built on relationships. And what that means is that I strive at my highest level, and so does my team, to make sure that as you go through this process that you're so happy with how this process is going that you'll advocate my business to the people in your life, because that's what I'm really looking for. See, I can do mortgages. Everybody can do mortgages. But in order for you to know that I'm your best option, you have to see what the bigger purpose is for me. And the bigger purpose is that I crave the opportunity to work with people that are just like you. So before we go any farther, is that okay? Are you guys comfortable with that kind of an arrangement where by the end of this meeting, if you decide that I'm not the best option to do your loan, then I want you to feel comfortable saying that. And if I feel like you're not going to be the best person for me to take on because I may not be able to meet your needs, are we okay having that conversation and being okay just kind of, you know, shaking hands and separating and moving on? How does that not engage that borrower even more when you basically told them that you don't need them?
Huge.
Yeah.
I think it does two things too. You also give them permission to say, hey, look, you can go somewhere else if you want. Like, I think giving them permission to leave,
yep,
it's a takeaway to start.
It is a takeaway to start because you're coming from a want basis, not a need basis. I know you guys don't need me. That's the leverage that they have, the consumer has, because they don't need you. They have all these different options. But when you come to them and say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I'm the best option that you have when it comes to deciding what your choices and direction is in your game plan, I'm the best person to help you figure out a game plan. Now, as we uncover all these details, we may come to the realization that I'm not the best option to do the loan, and that's okay with me. I'm also going to be looking at you to decide if you're the right client for me to take on. And the beauty of it is that when you do that, you inspire them to want to work with you, because all of what we're saying, Travis, is reframing you. See, what you do is no different than me. How you do it is no different than me. But what you say and how you say it and why you say it is what makes you different. I'm going to get more clients to use me over you, not because I'm bigger, not because I'm better looking, not because I'm more experienced. It has nothing to do with any of that. I just have the ability to communicate my value in a way that people trust, that people want to do business with. They want to be inspired, and I inspire them. And I use things like, isn't it nice to know that you've got a friend in the business now? Man, that's so powerful to people.
That is very cool.
And I say that at the end of the consultation as they're leaving. And I'm like, you guys, you know what? We're going to get through this together. Because right now, man, isn't it nice to know that you got a friend in the business now? Everybody wants to feel like they're a part of something. And at that moment, having you as an advocate in their life and being a friend to them, that's the best news that you can share with them. Because at the moment that they agree to work with you in the beginning, all their hesitation and all their fears have been minimized. Now, obviously, you have to deliver on everything you're telling them, and you have to do what you say you're going to do. But if you just do what you say you're going to do and don't overpromise and as long as you don't overpromise and underdeliver, this is not rocket science. But this conversation that you and I are having, you have never had with anybody else in your entire career. And how many years have you been doing loans?
Over 20.
Okay, so I knew without even guessing that this conversation has never been had with you by anybody. Do you think I'm confident in what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that what I'm saying is in my heart?
I do.
Okay. And you're accepting what I'm telling you as being reality, and you're accepting it because of not so much about what I'm saying, but the conviction that I have in my voice and in my tone is what you're sinking your teeth into, which makes the meat of the words that much more tasty because you know that what I'm telling you is true because it resonates with you. It's not facts, it's not figures, it's just resonating with you. It's pumping through your blood and it's in your veins now. And now that it's getting to sink into your brain and you start finding ways to communicate it in your style, that's what's going to make you freaking dangerous. That's what's going to make you look at realtors and go, you're just not the right person for me. And it's going to give you the confidence that when you sit in front of people, that you have more to say than they do, and you're much more articulate about what you do than they do. It's funny because when I do my realtor appointments, I would start out by saying what I said to you, and then I'd ask them, I said, so why do you do real estate? And I'd listen. Yeah, well, I mean, and I'd listen, and then I'd say, why should a client use you? And then I'd wait, and you hear the same thing over and over again, and that's when I capture them and go, that question's kind of a funny one, isn't it? You know, we know our clients are thinking about it in the back of their head, but we can't even answer it for ourselves. And I've always thought that if we can't answer it for ourselves, how's our client supposed to? So my relationship with my clients is really simple. Here's why I believe that I'm the right person for them. Here's why I know that when I'm talking to them, that I'm the best option. Because my business is built on relationships, and I crave that relationship so much, and their willingness to want to refer me that I orchestrate the entire process around getting them to want to refer us. And I'm really good at it. And that opportunity, if it's done in a partnership with a realtor, I always make sure that those referrals come back and I give them back to the agent that, that was a part of the transaction. I'm not sure if that's the right gig for you. That's what I want to try and find out.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Hey, I'm sorry that I came in late. I had a client that got out of my office about 15 minutes ago, but I've been listening.
How long you been on the phone, buddy?
About at least 15 minutes. At least 10,
all right,
15 minutes.
I recorded the whole thing, so you can go back and listen to the whole thing. But fire away, my friend.
Well, I'll never be late again because I'm going to get my schedule blocked out every Friday. Every Friday at 12 o'clock. Is it the same time?
It's Friday at either 12 or 1, depending on my schedule. But it'll be Fridays for sure.
But you'll let us know, you said on Thursday of each week?
By Wednesday or Thursday, I'll send out the calendar invite. Yep.
Okay. Well, I just listened to what you were last saying about relationship and establishing relationships. And of course, like probably a lot of people on the call, I got a client who was in my office this week. I provided her a couple of quotes and that sort of thing. But she contacted me, sent me an email and just said, hey, we appreciate your time and we appreciate your service. And I kind of what I kind of gathered from that is that I had not established a relationship with her. That's what I was really trying to do. And I was like, man, what did I do wrong? And so I kind of realized that I have to change my thinking in terms of the way that, I'll push a deal or push it forward to get it closed or push it off a cliff, just do whatever's necessary.
Yep.
But there was a disconnect there. And I knew from the email that I got back it was a disconnect. And I'm like, man, what did I do wrong?
I can tell you what you did wrong.
Was I pressing?
Nope. You commoditized yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is the moment in which you give somebody good faith estimates, in quotes,
mm-hmm.
you've given them the answers to the questions that they're seeking before they understand what the real answers are that they're after.
Okay.
Meaning that a client, you've got to understand a couple things about consumers. They don't know our industry.
Right.
They don't know what's right, wrong. They don't know what's misrepresented. They don't know what's true and what's slightly not true. They don't know things that we know.
Right.
They frame us based on what the media and the commercials and the advertisements show them. So they frame us in that particular way. So it's up to us to communicate our value to them while providing them a very clear sense of reality in that we're not a commodity.
Right.
I'm not a McDonald's. You don't come into my restaurant asking for a hamburger and I'm giving you grade A Angus beef on a Kaiser roll that was handmade in the morning that's been cooked over slow. You made all these things with a top-notch waiter who's serving you and attentive to your needs and expect to pay 99 cents for it.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Right.
If that's what you're looking for, please go down the street. So what I typically do with my clients when it comes to that is I don't ever talk specifics. I talk about what their real questions are. They're going to ask you, so what are your fees? You know what, Mr. Client, my fees? That's a really good question. But before I get into that, I've got to spend a little bit more time trying to figure out what your goals, wants, and needs are. And the reason is because your fees are based on what loan program you're going to go in. And right now, I'm not sure what loan program you're going to go in. Much the same way that you would go to a doctor and say, hey, doctor, my stomach's not feeling well. Can you prescribe me some pain meds? The doctor's not going to prescribe you any pain meds until they've done a diagnosis, until they've done an examination. So much in the same way that you're looking to me, I'm here to try and help you. And I know what you're trying to figure out is really to determine if I'm the right person for the job. But the truth in the matter is that fees are not the reason why I'm the right person for the job. Trust me when I say this, I'm very competitive, just like everybody is. But at the end of the day, the fees that we charge are in alignment with everybody else. And so in order for me to help get to that ultimate question, I've got to spend some more time understanding what your family's goals, wants, and needs are. See, you've answered the question, but you haven't given it away. You know, and I'm going to use this analogy, and please forgive me if it's a little off color. Part of the reason why we're so intrigued by the opposite sex is because they leave a little to the imagination. And anytime you have that ability to create a little bit of intrigue, you create a little bit longer opportunity to keep them engaged with you. But the moment that you give them information that gives them a chance to take it and go make comparables, they're comparing things that aren't necessarily real. Like you've given them the most accurate information, but unfortunately they don't know it. You haven't established your ability or your value to them for them to hear, for them to really understand and listen to what you're saying. Does that make sense at all?
It does. It does. Like it'll require some changing in my mindset. You know, I'm so used to people coming in here and you know, getting quotes, you know, getting itemization, so on and so forth.
But ask yourself, what is it that you're giving them a quote of? You're giving them facts and figures to make a determination if you, Tony, are the right person for the job. How do you communicate your value to people on a piece of paper?
Right.
And so what I tell my clients is really this. You know, Mr. Jones, you know what? Let's talk really generalities right now because you don't have a house. How much money are you working with? I mean, and this kind of conversation delves into how you get people's information and how you continue to build value. So I don't necessarily want to get into that today. What I'd like for you to do in this case, though, Tony, is I'd like for you to hold this conversation with yourself. Listen to the replay over the weekend, and I'll send it to you out. I'll send it out here in a little bit. But listen to it over the weekend, and then I want you to call me on Monday, and I want you and I to spend a little bit more time, because the reality is anytime that you give up your good faith estimate, you've now just commoditized yourself. You've told people that you're no better than the document that you're emailing them or you're giving them a chance to go shop you against. Mm-hmm. The problem is that they're using that piece of paper to say that this is what we're going to compare everybody else's offer to. The next offer could be $2,000 cheaper, but the numbers could be completely and totally wrong.
I see.
It's a little bit hard to swallow in the beginning because we're so used to providing clients with what they ask for. The problem is that the questions that they're asking aren't always necessarily the real question. Like, the bigger question is they're just trying to figure out if you're the right person for the job. In the beginning of the call, we talked about what creates action by people, and it's not facts and figures.
Right.
It's not black and white. If you want to get into the science behind it, you have the neurocortex of our brain, which is the engineering part, the black and white, the numbers, the calculator type part of our brain. But the limbic part of our brain is the part that creates emotion. That emotion is what drives people to change and makes people, produces action. Anytime we do something, it isn't because of the facts and figures, it's because the facts and figures have translated into something that pushes us and makes us feel like we're getting the right deal. The problem is that when you spend time on facts and figures, you get so overwhelmed by all the numbers that you literally end up tapping out. And so the person that's able to take their hand and go, listen, the facts and figures are there, I get it, but you've got to trust me, you've got to build a relationship with me, and I may not be the best option for you to do the mortgage with, but I'm the best option for you to talk to before you make that decision.
Right. Okay.
And that's what you'll hear in the beginning of the call that Travis and I have been having.
Okay. Okay.
And so, but I will tell you, if there's one piece of advice that I can give you that you have to stop doing right now, you need to stop giving out your good faith estimates. And what I tell you that is, here's the way I ran my business. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you're calling me up asking me for a good faith, I don't give them. I don't produce good faith estimates over the phone. I just don't. And the reason is because there's so much information out there on the internet and in the, out there with all these different banks. It's so hard for me to, because I know what I'm giving you is 100% accurate, but unfortunately you don't right now.
Right.
And it's the difference between you coming to me and saying, I have a doctor that I physically go visit to go get my prescriptions, or you just go online and go onto WebMD and go find somebody who's willing to sell you drugs over the internet. How comfortable are you taking those pills compared to sitting down with your doctor?
Right.
It really is, they're asking these questions because they don't know any different. They assume that every lender's value is determined based on their rates and fees, and we know that it's not the case. I can show you loan officers who make a hell of a whole lot more money because their rates are higher, but still get the business because of how they articulate their value and how they lead people into the belief that they're the best option. And if you want to be a rate-based lender, you can, but I don't know if that's the approach that you're after.
It's not.
I didn't think so.
No, not at all.
So that's why this call, and that's why these calls are so valuable, is because it's teaching people how to articulate their value in such a way that provides inspiration. And inspiration is emotion, which creates value and trust and connection and rapport, and people feel like you're the right person for the job. Even if your rates and fees are slightly higher, it still puts you in the position of being the advocate for them. And that's really what people are asking for. Nobody wants to sit in a cockpit, Tony, and fly an airplane if they're going on vacation. Hell no. All they want to do is be taken care of. They want to sit in first class, and they want to know that they're being handled and they're being taken care of. Nobody wants to be wedged into the cargo section. So here's the analogy. Hey, Travis, are you still on the call?
I am.
Okay, so here's the analogy that I'm going to leave you two with as a way that you guys can look at your value. Because I believe both of you know what you're doing. You guys both care. I believe you both have a great team of people supporting you. So I'm not even going to get into that part of it. So if either of you were walking, let's say all three of us are going on a vacation and we fly into San Diego and we get out of the airport and we're standing there with our bags and there's two vehicles in front of us. One is a limo and one is a taxi. The taxi has a sign up says it's $100. The limo says it's 125. And we have a 2.5-hour drive to our hotel. Which one do you think is going to be the first choice?
Limo for me. Right?
Dude, Tony and I are riding in the limo.
Yep. It's the limo, right? But you
Right.
guys already know that the limo's a little bit more expensive, right?
Right.
Why do you want to go on a limo, Tony? And not a cab?
It's going to make me feel better, for one.
Okay.
It's going to make me feel better. And of course, comfort, but,
Yep.
at the end of the day,
Yep.
for $25, man, that's and
Is the limo driver a slightly different caliber of a person than a taxi cab driver?
normally.
Normally,
You would
yeah,
think.
normally. I mean, not even when it comes to integrity. I'm just talking about level of service and attentiveness and cleanliness and everything that we judge people on, whether we want to do business with them or not.
Right. Yes.
Who's opening the door for you? The limo driver or the taxi cab driver?
Limo driver.
Who's asking you if you're comfortable or not?
Mm-hmm.
Who's providing you a little panache? And let's be honest, guys, when we got out of a limo, man, I feel like a freaking king. I think it's badass.
Right.
Come on, I mean, let's be selfish about it. Getting into a limo makes me go, I'm a slightly ahead of the game compared to everybody else who's getting in a cab.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not fool ourselves. It's still transportation, 4 wheels, doors, and going from point A to point B. It is not.
Right. It is.
So you have to decide for yourselves if you're the taxi or the limo. And the only way you can decide that for yourself is by how you communicate your value to people. But the limo and taxi cab analogy is perfect because we've all been there. We've all been in one or both and have always thought that being in a limo is better. The difference is not everybody has ever bought a home before. And people don't do it enough to understand. If people knew what you were, they would choose you every time because you are the limo, not the taxi cab. And for a slightly higher cost, you're going to get a better experience around one of the largest and most stressful and frustrating processes that you will ever go through. So ask yourself this: are you a cab or are you a limo? That's my call, guys.
Okay.
Hold on a
This is
second.
probably the best one I've been on